Good morning. Happy Mother's Day. Hey, how many mothers do we have in here today? Okay, how many grandmothers? Amen. How many teachers who have been a strong feminine presence in the life of a child? As a mother of 3 incredible sons, and who's officially adopted, well, unofficially, okay, it's unofficial. I have unofficially adopted multiple people and animals. Let me say that I don't believe, personally, that one needs to give birth or legally adopt someone to act as a mother. I believe that mothers come in all sorts of forms throughout people's lives. And I believe that all mothers, even those in the form of aunties, teachers, godmothers, neighbors, close friends, or whatever form they come in, they should be celebrated today. At the end of the service, I have a gift for all of us women in all of our forms. And after you open your gift, be sure to flip it over. This is important because on the bottom, there's an inscription. Okay? And also, one of the items in the bag is misleading. It is a pen. And I'm telling you this because when you pick it up, it's really unclear how to turn it into a pen. And it took me a few longer seconds than I will admit to. Before I figured it out. So, I knew they were pens because I picked them out and ordered them, but I pulled them out and said, how does this thing work? So there is a cap, pull hard. They convincingly look like they're children's toys. Okay, now on to the reason that we're all here today. Hope. This is talk 4 of 5 about hope, being able to find it when the going gets rough, and knowing how to use it and get through it all, knowing there's a divine hand in it all that'll move the mess toward good, that there's a spirit of love which will bless any mess. So tell me, after the 3 previous talks, is anyone feeling like they're able to see more reasons and opportunities to support hope? Yeah? I hope so. And no, I wasn't trying to be funny when I said I hope you're finding hope. That wasn't meant to be a hope lesson. But after I wrote that, I realized that perhaps it is part of the lesson. Because if you think about it, when you say, I hope so, or I hope that such and such happens, you're planting a seed. What seed do you want to plant? What crop do you want to cultivate? Has anyone in here ever said, or have you ever heard someone else say something along the lines of, I hope they get what they deserve? I'm not talking about it as saying, wow, they're so awesome, and I think that they should have all kinds of wonderful things happening in their lives. I hope they get what they deserve. That's not usually how it's said, is it? No, I am talking about the kind which means I hope that what goes around comes around for you. Because you done messed up and someone's got to pay for the mess that they made. Right? Yeah, I hope they will get what they deserve. And it sounds a lot like the, oh, bless their hearts, that we all know a thing or two about, right? People usually use that as an excuse so that they can spill the tea without looking bad. Right? Did you hear what happened to Daisy May? No, well, bless her heart. I heard from a neighbor who heard from her cousin, who heard from her uncle's stepmom's best friend, who heard from Daisy May's doctor's daughter that she, right? And what are we really doing when we hope that way? We're standing above whatever's going on and judging. Not only are we judging, but the moment we've judged, we step into jury mode and express, Your Honor, I'd like that person to be punished for the thing I've decided is wrong. And we're appealing to God to mete out a punishment based on our assessment of things, right? But see, there's a few things about that which we should take a look at. Perhaps the most obvious one is re-examining the what goes around comes around mindset. And I'll use me as the example, because if I say you, it sounds like I'm pointing fingers, and I don't want anyone thinking that I'm targeting someone in particular. I'm absolutely not. I am pointing all 8 fingers and a couple of thumbs at myself for this theoretical example. So let's say that I am someone who is hoping from that perspective of that person did something awful and they should suffer awful consequences for their awfulness, right? It certainly sounds like a fair thing to hope for, right? It sounds like balance, like righteous justice, right? But if we look at it a little more closely, we can see that when I do that, what I'm also doing is putting something out into the world that comes from a place of me wishing that something icky happens to someone else, which is something icky that I'm doing, which therefore means that my intention of ickiness should come back around to me. What I hope around for others will absolutely give me what I deserve, right? And if I'm busy doing that to others, especially if I make it a regular pastime, as some folks might, I'll be getting a whole lot of what comes around, right? And I might even think that my life is awful, that I can't catch a break, that if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. And a quick tangent to that, someone here said that phrase to me last week, and I want them to know that this part of today's talk has absolutely nothing to do with them. I had just forgotten that clever phrase existed until they reminded me, and it came forward when I was writing. So I promise it's not aimed at anybody, but you see where I'm going with it, right? When we're busy taking account of everyone else's moves and wishing them into a little karmic kicks in the backside, we're putting our order in for some karmic booty kicks of our own, right? And when those karmic booty kicks keep hitting us, and we don't see that we're getting kicked because we keep asking others to be kicked, we might begin to feel a little hopeless, right? I recently came to a new understanding of the way things work. And this new understanding came about through my observation of events, as well as the big questions and thoughts that I hear from people around me. One of the questions that I get over and over and over again, and this is kind of a broad strokes version of all kinds of specific questions about all kinds of situations, which ultimately equate to, if God wills everything, if God is behind everything all the time, then why are people suffering all over the world? And although I absolutely believe that oftentimes something seemingly awful happens, which is necessary for some incredible good to develop, something which never would have happened without the big scary event, I do believe that Spirit always has a plan, but I recently came to the realization that God doesn't create pain. The source of all love and all good could not create anything less than love and good. So it doesn't create pain, but God never wastes pain. And the idea behind that is something that I could pull apart in all kinds of ways in regard to ego and judgment being the cause of a lot of our pain. And it is. But I'm not going to go into it today, because where I'm going is this. If something which appears awful or tragic or senseless happens, something good will always come from it. God never wastes it. And when we realize this, when we realize that all pain and all suffering is a catalyst for greatness, it makes finding hope a little easier. When we're going through difficult times, perhaps something so difficult that we can't see anything good in it to cling to, we can always remind ourselves that something good will always come through it all. That Spirit is always with us, always doing everything possible to lead us to greater and greater good. And so all of this hard stuff, it's just energy that Spirit can draw from to catapult us into something wonderful, which wouldn't have happened without everything playing out exactly as it did. And I've proven that truth. When I gave you the example of the fires and all the stuff that led to the incredible Daniel Namod coming here to perform for us at a time when we needed a whole lot of comfort and healing from the devastation in our community. And then I offered more proof in the form of our wedding reception and party calendar miraculously being completely clear for exactly the length of time that High Point Academy needed to be in our fellowship hall. And when I say exactly, I mean that they cleared out on a Friday that we didn't anticipate because their end date kept changing. And the first reception was the next day. Yeah, that's pretty big. So if you missed the talk where I laid all of that out in detail, go onto our YouTube, find the video called Madness from February. It's pretty hard to miss the divine hand guiding pain toward good when you hear the evidence in that talk. So in the midst of our darkest times, if we can't find a light to guide us within the chaos, we can turn on a light of our own choosing by remembering that the universe never wastes pain, that something amazing will always come out of it all. And here are a couple of simple examples of things that we all know and love, which were born from struggles and pain. First, there's penicillin. Okay, that was discovered in 1928 by Alexander Fleming, but the real power of penicillin wasn't known until it was studied by Dr. Howard Florey in 1940. As a result, penicillin became a key component in treating and eliminating infections during World War II. The use of penicillin saved thousands of wounded soldiers, allowing them to continue the war effort and return home to their families. Today, penicillin is still a staple in combating bacterial infections. Next, and I am going to preface this to ask that you stay with me here, because there are some carnivores in this room who could argue about this being good. Some of those carnivores live in my house, but I assure you I am not naming any names, Mike. I promise I'm not. But the second good thing which came out of tough times is vegetarian sausage. Stay here. I know. Hear me out, okay? At the height of the Great War, the British blockade was tightening up and Germany began to starve. I know I'm still getting a vegan sausage face. Just stay with me. You're with that. Be here. Ooh. Okay, move past the sausage and into the story. Come on, you got this. So they're starving, right? Germany is starving. There's not enough food to go around. And it wasn't until Konrad Adenauer created this sausage in 1918 that German people could breathe a sigh of relief. However, Adenauer's own government denied his patent application. He sought an audience with King George V, and he was granted a patent for his soy-based wurst, which became known as, here's where it gets good, it's coming home, it became known as the peace sausage. Right? That's interesting. And third, if you carnivores will allow me to redeem myself here, the third decidedly wonderful thing to come from something decidedly not great is Mickey Mouse and the Walt Disney Studios. The Walt Disney Studios were essentially built upon hardship. Disney came to California in 1923 with very little money and a whole lot of hope. And his legacy began humbly when he began distributing a series of Alice comedies featuring a live-action girl and her animated cat. And then he moved to an all-cartoon approach. Disney and his team debuted Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Anybody remember Oswald? Yeah? And that was an instant success. People really, really loved that. And so his distributor stole the rights to the Oswald character. And shortly after that, he proceeded to steal the animation team. And as a result, Disney created the icon Mickey Mouse in 1928. The loss of one good idea resulted in the creation of one of the most famous characters of all time and ushered in a creative empire right here in Southern California. And those were some lighthearted examples. Those weren't earth-shaking or profound. But I wanted you to see where I'm going with this. But let's go a little deeper with things, okay? In 1998, John and Aileen Crowley were told that both of their young children, Megan and Patrick, they had a rare genetic disorder called Pompe disease. It was fatal. Doctors told them there was no cure and that their children would likely die within a few years. But John refused to accept that. He left his stable corporate job, he earned a degree in biology, and he began working with researchers who were studying experimental treatments. And when progress was slow on that front, he helped found a biotech company to speed up the research. Eventually, through this, a treatment was discovered and developed that slowly stabilized the progression of Pompe disease. It was one that would go on to save not only his children's lives, but thousands of others around the world. That story was later adapted into the movie Extraordinary Measures. Anybody know that film with Brendan Fraser and Harrison Ford? So out of one family's heartbreak, a medical breakthrough was born. Out of fear and hopelessness came purpose, love, and global healing. And here's another example, one which came about through a horrible event, which we can all remember in vivid detail. We all know where we were when we heard about this. On September 11th, gosh dang it. Give me a minute. Because I remember where I was. On September 11th, 2001, 4 hijacked planes changed the course of modern history. But on Flight 93, something else happened. Something that history will never forget, because the passengers aboard learned via their cell phones about the attacks on the Twin Towers and the Pentagon. They understood that their plane was being used as a weapon, and instead of panicking, they united. They formed a plan, they said goodbye to their loved ones, and they stormed the cockpit. Their plane crashed in a field, in a Pennsylvania field, killing everyone on board. And you could argue that that's a terrible thing. But there is something amazing that is harder to see from the surface. Diverting that plane prevented a devastating 4th attack headed toward the Capitol or the White House. These were everyday people, mothers and fathers, business travelers and friends, and in the face of terror, they knowingly chose self-sacrifice, courage, and love. Their actions saved countless lives, and proved that even in moments of chaos, the divine can rise through human hearts acting in unity. In both of these stories, something truly awful occurred, but not one of them ended with despair. In each case, the tragedy was real, but so was the triumph. And that triumph didn't erase the pain, but it redeemed it. It transformed it. It turned it into a doorway for love to enter the world in a new way. So yes, life can hurt, but I'll say it again, God never wastes pain. And when we believe that, when we trust in the quiet, persistent power of love and law, even ashes can become the soil for miracles. But there's one story that is a whole lot bigger, and it's one which not only shows how much pain there can be, but just how much good Spirit can shift it into. And I'm going to do my best not to get choked up again. It's a struggle. The struggle is real up here. One of the most unimaginable tragedies in recent history took place at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Dang it! Sandy Hook Elementary School in 2012, when a young man entered the school and took the lives of 26 people, 20 of them children. One of those children was 6-year-old Jessie Lewis. The loss was staggering. It was the kind of pain that can stop the world for a parent. Jessie's mother, Scarlett Lewis, was plunged into a darkness few of us can comprehend. But what happened next is a perfect example on Mother's Day. In the days that followed, she discovered something that shifted everything. On their kitchen chalkboard in Jessie's young handwriting were 3 words that he'd written shortly before the shooting: nurturing, healing, love. Scarlett took those words as a message, not just from her son, but from something higher working through him. She said, I knew those were not just random words. I knew they were a calling. And from the depths of her grief, Scarlett founded the Jessie Lewis Choose Love movement. It's a nonprofit dedicated to bringing social and emotional learning, compassionate education, and healing programs into schools, homes, and communities all around the world. Today, Jessie's message, his seed of love, has reached millions of students across the globe. The movement teaches that every person has the power to choose love over fear. Vengeance is a thing of the past when you choose forgiveness. And compassion is chosen over judgment, even in the wake of devastating loss. And here is the part that hits like grace. Scarlett has openly forgiven the shooter. She says, choosing love is not a feeling, it's a courageous decision. Forgiveness is the key to peace. She went on to meet with incarcerated men and women across the country, offering all of them the same message: you are not the worst thing you've done. You are not beyond healing. You are not outside of love. That's something a lot of people in the prison system have to hear, isn't it? You are not the things you've done. You are not outside of love. And that is something beautiful being born from something awful. And when I say God never wastes pain, this is what I mean. That even in our darkest hour, when all hope seems gone, something miraculous can emerge. Something that we couldn't plan. Something we never would have chosen, but that ends up choosing us to carry the light forward. Jesse didn't get to grow up, but his message did. And maybe, just maybe, that's how love works. It finds a way to keep moving even when we can't. So when you're in your own moment of sorrow or confusion or heartbreak, when you feel like the story must be over, remember, God never writes the final chapter in ink. The next page is always waiting to be turned with love. I want to invite you now into a quiet moment of sacred reflection. So if you're comfortable, let your eyes close one more time. Let your breath settle. And just for this moment, let the outside world fall away. Now gently bring to mind something in your life that felt, or maybe still feels, like a loss, a sorrow, a heartbreak, something that felt like it took something from you. Maybe it's something that you've tried to understand, or maybe it's something that you've tried to forget, but just for now, hold it in your heart. Name it silently. Let it be known. Now imagine that you're holding it like ash in your hands, soft, gray, fragile. You can feel the weight of it. It's not heavy, but it's real. Now, imagine a beam of light, warm and steady and loving. Imagine that it's shining down onto your hands. It is the light of divine intelligence, of love, of wholeness. And you speak these words from your soul. Spirit, I offer this to you. I know you never waste pain. I don't need to understand how, but I trust that even this can become something sacred. I open the soil of my life to receive what wants to grow. Just breathe with that for a moment. I open the soil of my life to receive what wants to grow. Let that settle into your body. Let the light do what it knows how to do. Now, gently bring your awareness back to this room and back to your breath. Carry this knowing with you. The ashes are not the end. They are the soil of something waiting to bloom. So when someone says, I hope they get what they deserve, maybe we can shift it. Maybe we can hope that they get healed. Hope they get free. We can hope they remember who they are. Because that kind of hope, that's the kind that changes the world. Thank you.